Welcome to FAQ175. Holy shit, it's been over a year since I made an FAQ video. Damn. And I noticed this actually, I made more Sunday with Ola videos than I've done FAQ videos now. I mean, FAQ videos is how I kind of started talking. The FAQ videos were the starting point for me, trying to speak more on camera, and here we are today. 175th FAQ, and I'm like 194 Sunday with Olas. Holy shit, man. Anyways, let's head on. First question, Severino SE. Why did Dimebag put an EQ pedal in the effects loop? Couldn't he have used the tone knobs on the amps? Also question, why did Dimebag put an EQ pedal in his effects loop when he was using Randall amplifiers? There could be many reasons why someone would use an EQ in the effects loop of an amplifier. I imagine the reason why Dimebag used an EQ in the effects loop was because he just wanted to have complete control over the tone in all, where, you can use an EQ of an amplifier, that's fine, but that EQ is fixed. You have bass, middle, and treble, and the mid knob, maybe it doesn't affect the mids that you want to get out of your amplifier. Using an EQ afterwards, especially like a parametric EQ that Dimebag was using, you could set which frequencies that you would pull or boost, for instance. So you got a lot more control to your EQ situation other than using the amplifier EQ. Because truth be told, amplifier EQ is somewhat limited. In some instances, some amplifiers just sound incredible in the preamp, just like the character of the amplifier, but the EQ is completely mismatched. I would imagine he used it to just, dial out a bunch of really shitty frequencies and stuff like that that would sound terrible in the speaker and through a microphone. That's my guess right there. I mean, Dimebag was using EQs before the amplifier as well, with a mid boost to it, the MXR EQs and stuff like that. Dimebag was known to use a lot of stuff to be able to form his signature tone. And truth be told, I don't think anyone else has such a distinct tone than Dimebag in metal, in my opinion. Great question. Andrew Lex. Hey Ola, how much does it cost to make an album? This is a great question, and actually it's kind of relevant too, because as bands are making less and less through streaming platforms and, people buy less albums and shit like that, the cost of an album has definitely been forced down, in my opinion. Back in the day, you could spend millions of dollars on a producer, on an album and production and all that. The budget is just not the same anymore. And, recording a producer has become a lot simpler, a lot cheaper too. The cost has definitely gone down to the point where the actual production cost on an album might not be that much. It's more about hiring the musicians or the engineer and the mixer that has become the larger costs. So for me to make an album, for instance, I need a drummer. And that's probably the biggest cost for me, alongside mixing, I would say. So for me, as I have a little bit of producing history to me, I know I can record myself a bass and vocals and shit like that. But, obviously you need a drummer to record drums and be a drummer. And depending on what drummer you want to have, they cost different, So in my case, I would use more of a well-known drummer. They cost a little bit more, but I think it's important. You can probably find incredible drummers that would do it a lot cheaper. I would say the biggest chunk of my cost goes to drummers and then the mixer, I would say. And that's probably half and half. And then it's all the production costs for printing stuff as well, which is an upfront cost, which is a lot. And that's why I'm talking a lot about pre-orders and, for people to pre-order my albums on my channel, is because we have a lot of upfront costs that is, it's a lot. So that's why you see a lot of pre-orders from my music, for instance. But I try to keep the span from pre-order to actual album release very short, because I know a lot of people have less patience nowadays. So there you go. Hope that helped. I didn't say a figure, but if you want to have a number for my releases, for instance, it could be somewhere between 4,000 euros to 10,000 euros, depending on for just the music alone. And then you have all the other costs, videos and shit like that. And that doesn't even count in the hours I put in. If you put in my hours as a cost, that I don't know, it's probably very expensive. That's why it's so good to do it all yourself, because it's just time. Then it's not cash, you know? So there you go. Julian David, 8875. Hey Ola, great video as usual. I'm actually looking for a new guitar and was wondering, shit, I don't know where to find differences between guitars in a very simple way. Pickup shape, price, size for my freaking short fingers. What if Ola would make videos about comparing two different guitars, Solar versus Jackson, ESP versus Chapman, in the same price range, and give us his thoughts, feedbacks, pros and cons? That would be very interesting to us. I agree, it would definitely be very interesting for you guys, and I would love to make videos like this. The problem I have is, since I am the president and the owner of Solar Guitars, even if I would make a fair comparison between like a Solar guitar and an ESP, which, you know, I would make a fair comparison video, but the problem is still, people know that I'm the owner of Solar Guitars. It's never gonna be a fair video in the eyes of the people and the audience that watch it when one of the guitars is owned by me. I can't do these type of videos because of this. So it would be easier if you went and asked this question to another YouTuber that doesn't have any affiliation with any brand. Even if I will make as fair of a video as I can, you know, comparing two brands, Solar and ESP, in the eyes of the audience, I mean, I can't make it fair. People will always see the advantage of the Solar guitar because I'm the owner of the Solar guitars and expect me to talk good about the brand. So it's not up to me to make comparison videos like that. Cthulhu Awaken. Oh, I'd like to know something from you. I know you even made a couple of videos about playing their songs and dialing their tones, but what's your opinion on Metallica? Do you like them on a lesser degree compared to Pantera, Dream Theater, and Death Metal, or do they have a bigger importance in your favorite stuff? I'm pretty sure you like those other bands more, but what influence did, if any, Metallica have on your guitar playing or even your listening to music in general? This is a great question. I do cover Metallica a lot because it is a very popular brand. However, Metallica was not a part of my teenage years when it came to listening to metal. My metal journey started with Bolt Thrower, Pantera, Sepultura, Machine Head, Testament, you know, heavy bands. Obviously I knew about Metallica because that's mainstream metal right there, and I heard it on the radio and I saw the videos on MTV, and you know, nothing wrong about Metallica. It wasn't actually until early 2000s that I thought like, okay, I need to dig into Metallica. I need to go album by album and just listen through it all. At that time, I had such a hunger for music, I could listen to anything, and I tried to kind of listen to everything because I was just so inspired by all music I heard. And I did have a Metallica phase where I just listened to their albums for a full year, and it was basically like a crash course in Metallica. It was a little bit later. I was probably 21 or 22. So it didn't happen in my teenage years. My teenage years was just Dream Theater, Pantera all day long. And I do like Metallica, and I love for what they've done to the metal community and how many bands they've inspired. I've always been more into more extreme metal bands, and Metallica are a little bit off the chart there. So it's not me not liking Metallica. I love Metallica. I'm just way more into extreme metal music. The good thing about Metallica was that they had relatively easy to learn riffs for the level that I was at when I was playing guitar at that era. So it was really fun to learn a lot of their songs. Ralph 9176. Ola, vad använder du för gitarrsträngar? Märke, tjocklek, gillar du slinky eller tight känsla? Alright, I'm not sure why I read it like that, but he's basically asking what brand of strings are you using, what thickness, do you like thin strings or thick strings, etc. And I think most of you guys know that I'm a 10 to 52 D standard guy. That's kind of like my go-to with a lot of the guitars that I play, and playing with the Haunted and playing with Feared, I use drop C, for instance, on a 52. And that's just like, that's a good standard right there. Just like 9 to 46 in standard E, it just works, man. But I have been experimenting a little bit with using half sets, and I talked about this before. So instead of having like a 10 set, 10 to 52, I've used 9.5 to like 44 or something like that. Trying half sets. Instead of 9 to 46, I'll be using 8.5. For instance. So here's a GHS 8.5 string set right there, and I would use this, it's 8.5 to 40, and I would use this on a standard E guitar. But other than that, I mean, in terms of brands, I just get whatever's easiest for me to buy. So I've been buying Slinkies, you know, Ernie Ball for the past half year or something like that, and I buy these 3-packs. Strings. It's like a lot of people put a lot of attention to what strings they're using. I don't really care about the brands, to be honest. I kind of just look for whatever's available, and if there's a set that is perfect to me. I like having slinkies on the solo side and a little bit heavier on the bottom side, obviously. So sometimes when I use half sets like this, I like to combine and take like I like to take the highest 3 strings and then use a lower set for the lower strings, for instance. So you get a good balance between the two. So there you go. I don't really care about string brands. I was once, like more than 10 years ago, sponsored by GHS. That was just like, I just got a box of strings. That was it, basically. Arisco Keynes, Ola Englund, why do you not use the FM3 as your live rig nowadays? All right, so back in the day, I was using the Fractal Axe 8 pedal board for live, and then I switched over to the FM3, which is a great unit because it has 3 buttons on it, and I'm a 3 sound type of guy. I have a rhythm tone, I have a lead tone, and a clean tone. That's it. So perfect for that. But then lately, as Quad Cortex got released, I switched over to the Quad Cortex. And you might ask why I switched over to the Quad Cortex. Is there anything wrong with the sound of the FM3? And like I say, when I talk about modelers in general, I don't think there's a really big difference between the sound. I think they all sound pretty good. It's more like when I started using a new device, I'm like, okay, this is cool. I want to try it out in a live setting. I want to try it in a live setting because that's where I would use it the most. You know, I'm not hooking up a modeler and sitting here on my computer when I'm writing. I'm using plugins for that. So pedal modelers like that, that's something I would use live. I want to test it out live. The problem is that I'm not playing live that often, maybe like 5 or 6 gigs every year with the Haunted festival gigs. And with that, you know, I don't switch out my gear that often. So I did start using the Quad Cortex, and it's sounding really good. It's really delivering. There's no doubt the FM3 could do the exact same, you know, and sound just as good. It's just the unit I'm using right now. When Fender released the Tone Master, I was like, I want to try this live too. And I almost did. However, it is a little too big of a unit for me to bring with me to play live. I like smaller units like the FM3 and the Quad Cortex. I would even like an even smaller unit if possible. But, you know, that's just maybe later. Maybe they can release something smaller even. It's not really about personal preference. It's more about laziness, I guess. And for me to try out different options live, you know? So there you go. Darren Booker, why does your dog look like a dog and you are? FAQ 175 for you right there. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section of this video and maybe you'll get featured in next year's FAQ. No, I'll try and make these more often. It's just that I keep forgetting about it, you know? And then I have questions here and there in the Son with Olas as well. But you know, I figured it would be cool to kind of revamp this shit, get back on track. Let's go. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. See ya.